All right, quick predictions on the HBO card, and then I want to talk about Eddie Hearn for a couple minutes. Igor Mikolka, he takes on Sergey Kovalev in the main event on the HBO card Saturday night. Mikolkin's a lefty, and he has a win over Thomas Ustuzinen, and he only has one loss, and it was by decision to Alexei Kuziemski. And Mikolka has some good activity. He uses the entire ring at times. He's got a good counter, sometimes lead right hook out of that southpaw stance. I hate the way he jabs. Sometimes he just jabs like someone who is their first day in the gym, first time putting boxing gloves on, first time really ever throwing their hands up in a fight, or sparring, or even shadow boxing. You just you'll see it maybe on Saturday night. I just don't like the way he throws the jab, and I think his punches slap more than having power on them. He has his flaws. He has this irky-jerky kind of style that fools most people, so he gets away with it, and he only has one loss because of it. However, if you can counter like Kovalev can, I think he's going to see it. And one thing Kovalev is going to see is Igor kind of gives certain movements when he's about to throw a jab, so he kind of tips you off, and that's something that has to be corrected, but it's not going to be corrected in this fight. But maybe after, I look for Kovalev to counter that jab and actually cut Igor's lights out in this fight. Maybe around the fifth round, maybe earlier. And then I think Igor will go back to the drawing board, and they'll start looking at that jab and how he's tipping his hand before he throws it. I think we'll see the crusher in this fight, and he stops Igor. To me, this is a confidence building fight for Kovalev as he gets ready to match up with some of the big boys in the light heavyweight division. So I like him by knockout over a guy who's never been stopped, but I think he's going to get stopped Saturday night. In the fight leading up to the main event, which could be the best fight of the weekend on every channel, Showtime, HBO, and also remind you that Kell Brook fights this weekend also on Saturday. It'll be youth versus experience. Sullivan Barrera takes on Dmitry Bivol for Bivol's WBA World Light Heavyweight title. Sully Barrera's 21 wins, 1 loss, 14 knockouts. He lost to Andre Ward when his trainer was Abel Sanchez, and Barrera got rid of Sanchez, and he's going on a tear. And he's looked good. He's looked very, very good. Now, when he fought Ward, a lot of people called it easy, but when you look at Ward, it was either in the post-fight interview or it was in the dressing room. I can't remember. Ward's face was marked up pretty bad. So Sully B got his lumps in for sure. But I think he's a much better fighter. Since I just don't think he and Abel Sanchez were on the same page, but he's in the zone right now. And this is his title shot, so he's gonna fight like it too. Sully's got wins over Jeff Lacey, a shot, Jeff Lacey, Cairo Marat, Vaya Shabransky, Joe Smith Jr., and Epifano Mendoza, who's been in there with everybody. Dimitri Bivol. Bivol's 12-0, 10 knockouts. He's beaten Cedric Agnew, and he looked impressive in a fight that I saw live against Samuel Clarkson. Dimitri Bivol is a combination puncher, but he's also an extremely hard puncher. And only 12 fights, as I said, and if he has any flaws, Sully B, I think he's going to be ready to capitalize on those flaws. I think Sully B gets stopped. I think he gets dropped and stopped in this fight. Sully B has the habit of getting dropped early. He got dropped by Ward in round 3. And Ward actually had a point deducted for low blows in the 8th round of that fight. That's Andre Ward, folks. Deducted a point for low blows in the fight. Raul Calles Jr. was the referee. So, you know, might want to take a look at that fight and see if you see anything that you've seen before. I'll leave it at that. So Ward dropped Sully B in the 3rd round of their fight. Then Barrera got dropped by Joe Smith in the 1st round of their fight. Also, Barrera got dropped by Shabransky in the 2nd round of their fight. So if he gets dropped early by Bivol, I think Bivol finishes him. I mean, I think Bivol, this kid's no joke. I mean, he's not playing. But if he doesn't, what'll happen is Barrera will get back up and he'll come back like he did in those other fights, and he'll have some moments. He'll look impressive. And in that scenario, eventually I think Bivol still wears him down and stops him. Either way it plays, I like Bivol by TKO. Alright, sorry I'm losing my voice. Let me move on to Eddie Hearn. Let me talk about Eddie Hearn for a couple minutes. Eddie Hearn is a genius. When you talk about Anthony Joshua making over $25 million for fighting Klitschko, and then he comes back and fights a guy that most people never heard of, and makes over $20 million fighting him. I mean, he's a cash cow of boxing, and he's about to fight Joseph Parker, and who knows how much he's going to get in that fight. So the man behind all of that is Eddie Hearn. I mean, think about it. He got over $20 million to fight Carlos Takam. You know anybody else? A prime Mike Tyson, where supply exceeds demand, coming right out of jail, wouldn't have got $20 million for Carlos Takam. Are you kidding me? I mean, so I don't want people to bury HBO yet. I think HBO is playing chess. Everybody's talking about how Showtime is putting on the best fights. Allegedly. They are. even this week, everybody's talking about Wilder versus Ortiz. Very few people talking about the Kovalev MIKHALKIN fight or Sully B and Bivol. Yet the best fight of the week just might be Sully B versus Bivol. But back to Hearn. Anthony Joshua's contract with Showtime expires after this fight. Trust me, this kid's going to be a billionaire. If he keeps winning, he's going to be a billionaire. Because we're not even talking about the endorsements that he has outside the ring. That's why I say that. What I think HBO is doing is I think they're saving money. Not only to go after the AJ versus Wilder fight, but when AJ becomes a free agent, networks are going to be throwing the house at him, money-wise, to get the rights to his fights. Now keep this in mind. Eddie Hearn has already crossed over by getting Danny Jacobs and Baby Miller, Jarrell Miller, Big Baby Miller, to jump from Showtime to HBO. So if Eddie Hearn signs Danny Jacobs and Baby Miller, and then they go from Showtime to HBO, and AJ is also an Eddie Hearn guy, if HBO wins the bidding war with Showtime, they will be back completely. Why? Because if they bring AJ over, then a bunch of UK guys are going to follow AJ due to the deal that Hearn got him with HBO. I mean, we're looking at Amir Khan, Scott Quigg, James DeGale, Kell Brook, Anthony Crolla, Ryan Burnett, Dillian White, Callum Smith, Ryan Kelly, who's going to be a star, etc. All of these are Hearn guys. AJ, by way of Hearn, will pave the way for all these guys. And now people are going to start looking at HBO like they're HBO again. So now real quickly, let's jump back to Showtime. As of 2 days ago, Barclays Center was about halfway sold. You got the heavyweight champion of the world, WBC, Deontay Wilder, 39 wins, 38 knockouts, and he's fighting an undefeated Cuban, a monster, and you're telling me that the place is halfway sold. Now it's probably a little better than halfway sold now. This is late Friday evening, the night before. So the fight isn't selling well. Now, Eddie Hearn is bringing AJ to America to fight Jarrell Miller if both of them win. You know, of course, he has to beat Parker, and then Miller has to beat who he's fighting. Mark my words. If it happens, the tickets will sell much better when AJ fights in Brooklyn, a place that Deontay Wilder says is his second home, says is his house. So I think that Eddie Hearn's plan is to devalue Deontay Wilder. Wilder calls Brooklyn his second home. He calls it his backyard. So a UK guy, a guy from the UK who's never fought here, will sell your backyard out better than you did. I mean, it's ingenious. It's ingenious. It takes Wilder's value and lowers it. It devalues Deontay Wilder. So now when you come to the table talking that 50-50 bullshit, when you've never made more than $2 million, and this guy made more in one fight than you'll make in your career, they're going to point to that and say, listen, I'm selling 78,000 93,000. I mean, and you can't even sell out Barclays. So this is AJ's last fight on Showtime. But follow me. I'm sorry, last fight of his Showtime contract, but follow me. Remember what I said about Hearn bringing guys to HBO. So when we think about Showtime, we think of what? Al Heyman. We think of Barclays. We think of PBC. We think of Showtime, right? When we think of Top Rank, K2, Golden Boy, main events, and we're talking New York, what do we think of? We think of Madison Square Garden. We think of HBO. So Showtime equals Heyman. Showtime equals Barclays. HBO equals Top Rank, Golden Boy, K2, or main events. Not really Top Rank anymore. They're at ESPN, but we think Madison Square Garden. All of a sudden, Danny Jacobs and Jarrell Miller moved to HBO because of Hearn. So they're both going to fight on the HBO card soon. But guess what? It's going to be at Barclays Center. So Harold Letterman, Max Kellerman, Lamps, Jim Lampley, they're going to come to us live from the Barclays. This is groundbreaking. You know what I mean? Not a Showtime broadcast, but an HBO broadcast. Not at Madison Square Garden, but it's going to be at Barclays. So I think that Hearn is going to start the bidding war for AJ's services. He said that Showtime's been good to them, and he's going to give them the first option. But trust me, HBO's going to come with a package, and we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens. So I just think it's ingenious. I think what he's done with bringing them over to HBO, and then I think he's going to devalue Deontay. I just think you keep an eye on Eddie Hearn. I mean, I know he's the hot promoter right now, but he's just not a flash in the pan. It's not hot just for a reason of being hot because he has one guy. I think his game plan or his game plans are going to take full effect and take effect soon, and we may see a change in the landscape. So, all right, I'll be in New York tomorrow checking the fights out, and then we'll have a recap of the weekend. I'm going to one of the fight cards, and then whatever one I don't go to, I'll come back home Sunday and watch those fights, and then give a recap. We'll catch you on the next one.